Happy Halloween, everybody, and welcome to Southwest Ohio Magazine. And Mary, it's Halloween time again.
I know. And Greg, this is one of my very favorite holidays. We're going to have such a good time tonight. I was so excited when I found out I'd be part of the 1998 Halloween special.
Actually, this is a 3-year tradition for Southwest Ohio Magazine and for Halloween shows, and we're really excited, as Mary said. And we're actually on location again at some brand new places here for Halloween stories.
Yes, it's going to be an adventure, so hold on tight. And we have a special guest with us tonight.
Well, you know what, Mary? We were supposed to have Clermont County historian Rick Crawford with us, but I don't know what happened to him. You know where he's at?
No, I haven't seen him, but gosh, I hope he comes to keep us company. It's kind of spooky out here.
I know. Well, if you see him, I want you to let me know, okay? Wait a second. I think, what's this?
Who is this?
Let's check this out. And
Rick,
it happens to be Rick Crawford. What do you know?
Welcome to the show, Rick.
I think everybody in the county will agree I looked much better just a moment ago.
No.
Nah.
The unmasking has taken place. Well, Rick, we are here at the Waddles house in Utopia, the site of a very famous haunting. Could you tell us a little bit about this special story?
Well, we are in the village of Utopia. The village began in 1844 when a man by the name of Judge Wade Loughborough purchased land here for a man in France known by the name of Charles Fourier. And Fourier, after the land was purchased, sent 250 people here, and they became known as a Fourierite Society. And the Fourierites believed in doing everything in common. They were a pre-communist kind of group. And they settled what is today known as Utopia. They were trying to establish a heaven on earth or utopian society. And what they ended up doing is, after about 2 years, Fourier asked them to build one place for them to all live. Well, they built a huge 3-story mansion on the Ohio River. And in December of 1847, which I've been told it was on a Friday the 13th, I don't know.
Uh-oh. That adds a little special something, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. It sure does. And what actually happened is a flash flood hit and killed all but 6 people. And I didn't know anything about just the number 6 until I read I purchased a book up in Zorr, Ohio, that talked about utopian societies, in particular this one, and just said there was just 6 survivors of that flood.
Wow, that's amazing. And so the ghost story really goes back to before the Civil War.
Oh, yes, quite a bit.
And it's supposed to still be haunted even today.
Oh, yes, the village, and this house in particular, Waddles' house, which when he arrived here in 1847, he brought with him a group of what they known as spiritualists, and they had a spiritualistic society, and they performed their religious ceremonies around seances.
Wait a second, hold on.
Wait, you guys.
Mark Odell, our floor director here, is kind of motioning to us.
He
but
signaled
I don't know.
to us, but I don't see anything.
I don't see anything behind us. Oh,
okay, sorry,
Rick.
Rick.
You tend to get a little, pardon the pun,
spooked
at times like
All
this,
right.
so
Sorry.
it's probably nothing,
Well,
folks.
this is in the middle of nowhere, and it is dark.
It is indeed. You know, I was impressed by the fact that we're not exactly right on top of the Ohio River here, are we? We're probably about maybe a quarter mile away. That must have been some heck of a flash flood, huh?
Well, back then, it was actually, the building was built. It would today be underwater.
Wow.
And it was built right on the, Utopia was on 3 plateaus. We are actually on the 2nd plateau, and the house is built on the first one, and it's now all completely underwater.
Wow. Well, Rick, you said something about them holding seances here on the property in this actual house?
Yes. This upstairs room, which on the 2nd floor, the room closest to us, is where it's believed Waddles held some of his seances. And I've been in that room. I went with some of my closest friends. My best friend Paul Dunaway and another close friend Andy Dickerson and some other friends. We came up into this house in 1990, did research on it, and while we were in that room, the door closed on us, and there was a cat in there that had just went crazy when it got in that room. It had been normal all night and just acted very odd, and then that door closed, and I actually witnessed that myself.
Wow.
They say that animals can kind of sense the spiritual world
things like
a little
that.
bit.
This cat looked right in the closet while the door was still open and hissed and arched its back and its tail got real straight, and then when the door shut quickly, it darted out of the room in a flash.
Now, see, Greg, that almost gives you goosebumps, doesn't it?
It does
Just
indeed.
to think about
it does indeed.
that happening. And I understand the current owner, who's going to talk to us a little later, has also had some kind of scary occurrences that she's going to tell us about.
And she's lived here, I think she said 7 weeks only.
Wow.
Wow. And they've only lived just a short time and they've still seen.
Absolutely.
we want to mention too, before we actually take a look at the house, if we're of course brave enough to go in, and that is that this story, among others, are in Rick Crawford's book. And we'll talk about that in a little bit, but it's called Uneasy Spirits, 13 Ghost Stories of the Haunting of Clermont County, and it's available all over the place, isn't it, Rick?
All over my trunk, at the trunk of my car.
All over the trunk, all over.
This is a great book. I read it cover to cover, and I heartily recommend it if you've got an interest in the history of Clermont County, or you just kind of like Halloween stories. It's a really well-researched book and a lot of fun.
This is my favorite time of the year. I love this.
Well, without any further ado, maybe we could...
Let's go check out the seance room. Do you think Kim will let us go in the house and see it ourselves?
If she's smart, no, but she looked adventurous to me. I think we'll get a chance to get up there.
All right, we'll
Let's
do that.
do it.
Let's do that right now.
Gregg and I are here with Rick Crawford in the seance room of the Waddles house, which is purported to be really haunted. And we're here with Tara, Brandy, and Kim, who are currently living in the house as well. Welcome to the show. Rick, tell us a little bit about the apparitions that you have heard about that have been seen in this house.
Well, when I was doing research on the book, when I talked to people that lived in this house in the 1910s, the 1930s, the 1980s, and 1990s, they all described the exact same thing. 6 people coming up from the Ohio River towards this house, walking on a dirt path, which is today a gravel path, crossing a dirt road, which is now the paved US 52, coming through an opening in the split rail fence, which is now a chain link fence, and coming into the house. They've been heard coming up the steps, they've been heard talking and mumbling, crying, and they've been seen by people coming around the steps, and as they approach this room, you can still hear them, you can't make out any particular words or anything, and they just sort of like dissipate, they just fade away.
Wow, and this room itself, you've said that some of the layout of this room plays heavily in the apparitions.
I was in this room doing research in 1989 and 90, and the last time I was in this room, a cat was following us around and just chasing fur balls and acting silly all night. Got in this room, and as it looked towards the opening of the closet door, it arched its back, its tail got straight, it started hissing, and then when the door slammed, it left in a flash.
Did you slam the door?
I was standing over here at the door, good 20 feet away, good 15, 20 feet away.
Now, I want
What do you think, Gregg?
Oh, it sounds pretty scary to me. And I want you to remember, folks, the part about Rick's story where he said that the people were wet. And this is important, too. So, Kim, you've actually only lived in the house how long?
Approximately 5 months.
5 months. Now, why don't you tell us about a story that was associated here with your daughter when you first moved in?
Well, approximately in late June, my daughter, at the age of 3, was up around 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning at the back door crying, and I heard her, so something made me go downstairs. And when I did, I asked her what she was doing there, and she said an old lady asked her if she can come in. And I'm like, well, what old lady? She goes, the old lady and all the people. And I'm like, well, where are they now? And she said, well, they all gone home. And the next day, she didn't remember nothing.
That's amazing. And I'm correct in saying here that you had never heard anything about the story of the Utopian Society or the Waddles following at all, right?
Not most of it. About the people coming up, I didn't hear anything about that.
Wow, that's kind of
amazing.
neat. So that was a real experience, and the girls have as well had experiences. Is that true?
What have you seen anything, Brandy?
No, I hear people coming up the stairs sometimes, and I've seen what seems to be a blue light go through the room.
Oh my gosh, that's pretty good. What about you, Tara?
Oh, one night when I was sleeping, I started hearing this little boy crying in my corner, and I was like hysterical. I ran in my mom's room as soon as my cousin, Josh, turned on the light. And I told my mom, I'm like, Mom, there's a little boy crying in my corner. And she's like, just go back to bed. We'll talk about it in the morning. And then that's all I heard.
But there wasn't anyone there, right?
No, I didn't see nobody. I just heard a little boy crying.
Wow. Well, this may be, in fact, a true haunting of Clermont County,
Right
one that's
here.
been documented by Rick Crawford. Thanks for all your time today. This has been really a neat experience, and I think people are really going to enjoy seeing one of these houses for themselves.
No doubt about it. And Kim, we want to thank you and your husband, Tim, for letting us kind of... He's your brother-in-law. Okay. Well, thank you for letting us kind of barge in here and take over. So it's nice that you could do that for us. So.
Oh, you're welcome, and I appreciate you coming, and it teaches me a little bit more about the house.
Right, I'll tell you. And with that, everybody, we'll be right back to some more Halloween right after this. Well, everyone, Mary, Rick, and I have traveled all the way from the Ohio River up to the middle part of Clermont County at the county seat here in Batavia, and we're at a pretty haunted house right now, right, Mary?
Wow, Greg, you're not kidding. This is our second haunted house tonight, and this is the Hoberg house.
The Hoberg house.
In Batavia.
And you know, we talked about this house last year, Mary, when we did our Halloween segment at the Promont in Milford, and there's a definite connection between that house and this house here in Batavia. And Rick, tell us about that, if you would, please.
Well, this house was purchased by the Hoberg family in the 1940s, Roseanna and Herb Hoberg. And it wasn't long till after they purchased a bed from the wife of Henry Hodges, who lived at Promont, that activities began happening in the house. The bed was put in an upstairs bedroom, and from that point on, they started hearing footsteps coming down the stairway. One gentleman was at a party here, some kind of house party in 1968, and said hello to a couple upstairs in the same bedroom, and those people had been dead for years. And Mrs. Hoberg's dog, its hair would stand up on end. One night she was in here by herself when the rest of her family was at a Cincinnati Royals basketball game, and she ran out and sat in the car, waited for the family to return home. So there's a lot of great stuff, and I don't want to step on her toes because fortunately tonight we've got the privilege of actually having Roseanna talk about her former home.
That would be neat.
Well, now the visitors that have been seen at this house are an elderly couple, is that correct?
That is correct.
And wouldn't that be amazing, Mary, if we could actually capture the elderly couple on videotape? And,
on footage, I mean.
You know, I don't know if we could ever get that lucky or not.
That would be so incredible.
But that would be really incredible to do that.
Well, those apparitions are so clear that there have been the families who've lived in this house. Of course, we're right across the street. Right in front of us is the old Batavia High School. The kids, when they were students, would look from the windows in school across the street and see this old couple looking out at them.
Upstairs in the windows of this house, right?
Absolutely.
That's
wow,
amazing.
That's really neat.
That is. I getting kind of goosebumps
I know.
Up and down my spine
right now. Well, after the Waddles house, I think we were set up for it anyway. We were a little nervous when we came up the hill to Batavia.
Very much.
Again, this is another haunted house.
It is. Now, the current residents of this house are the Ellis, is that right, Rick? The Ellises?
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
Tom Ellis is the current police chief of of Amelia, and he was police chief of Owensville. If anybody remembers last year's segment about Nellie, the picture of Nellie, he was the gentleman who actually shot the picture of Nellie.
So there's a connection there.
Wow.
Even, so.
Yeah, I'll tell you, it's one of those things about Clermont County.
Well, we were actually
interlocked.
talking. They sure are. We were talking to Mrs. Ellis a little bit before we went on the air with this segment, and she told us that they've actually had a few incidents of kind of hauntings here at this house as well. So.
They had an appliance, a vacuum cleaner, turn on when no one was in the room, and then she said another time she and her husband smelled coffee, and yet there was no coffee being made in the house. She and her husband weren't drinking coffee. So,
Although I tell you what, when they turned the corner, there was a ghost of Joe DiMaggio there.
selling the coffee maker.
Selling the coffee. But he's not dead, though. So he was just there having coffee. The door was unlocked, I
You
guess.
got me on that one, Greg.
Your jokes are never going to be on the hitting streak he was on.
No question about that, Rick.
Well, what do you think? We should get Mrs. Hoberg out here and talk to her about the house since she lived in it, what did you say, Rick, for over 30 years?
Yes, probably somewhere in that area, yes.
And she can give us some first-hand knowledge of this haunting here in Batavia. So with that, everyone, stay tuned. You don't want to miss this. We'll be right back.
Rick and Greg and I are honored to be here with Roseanna Hoberg, who lived in the Hoberg house for over 30 years and who has actually witnessed some of the hauntings.
And you have been living in Batavia how long, Mrs. Hoberg?
Oh, I was born here.
So you've lived here your whole life?
Oh, right? Just about.
35 or 36 years.
35 years,
yes,
right?
I can't tell you how many, but...
Well, 39 and holding.
39 and holding, right. Well, tell us a little bit about some of the experiences that you've had living in this house here behind us.
Well, we bought the house in 1947. The house had been built about 1870 by some man who couldn't afford to finish it. So a lawyer took it over, and he and his wife lived here for some time. They lived here until the late 1800s, I think. Another family, the name of Lytle, bought the house, and we bought the house in 1947 from them. And we lived here until 1974. The house doesn't look as if it were haunted. It's not that kind of a house as far as looks are concerned. we moved in the spring of 47. I had a young son, and I was sitting in the family room. I was contemplating what I wanted to do because we just bought this house and we didn't have much money. And the lady who owned the house, Mrs. Lytle, came in and she said, would you like to buy some furniture that's in this house? And I said, we couldn't afford it. We just bought the house and we extended ourselves as far as I could. She said, well, I have one thing I want to sell you. And I said, what? Well, it was a bed upstairs in one of the rooms. And so the bed was beautiful. It had really tall posts. I say they were over 6 feet. It had a trundle bed under it, and you really needed steps to get up in the bed. She said, I'd like to sell you this bed. I said, well, we can't afford it. And she said, well, this bed has been in this room for 50 years. She said, 11 children were born in this bed, myself and my siblings. And so I said, well, why don't you give it to some of your relatives? And she said she didn't want to. And one of her brothers was a Henry Hodge, who lived in Probon for some time. And I thought he would be interested in it, but she wasn't interested in him, apparently. So,
as it always turns out.
That's right.
But you ended up with the bed.
Well,
you kept it.
Well, finally, she said, would you pay $25 for this bed? And it was a cherry bed.
Wow.
And the cherry had been cut down here in Clermont County, sent to England, and the bed had been made in England. Wow. So I said, I don't know about buying this bed. So I went to her daughter and said, is it all right to buy this bed? And her daughter said, yes, it's been in this room for 50 years, and she wants
it's part
to
of the house
stay
at
there.
this point,
Yes.
isn't it?
Well, it became part of our house, I'll tell you that. So we bought the bed.
And then you started having...
Then the ghost came along with the bed.
Uh-oh.
But I didn't know it at that point. But I never saw the ghost because it never stayed around long enough to look for it. But the first time I heard the ghost, I said never saw it. But I was in the family room and I heard somebody getting out of bed. And they walked across the floor above me in this room where the bed was. Then they started down the steps, and there are 28 steps down the first stairway because I counted them.
Every single one.
I think I would have counted too.
We always had cockers. We had one cocker at that point. So the cocker went as far as the hall where the steps came down, and then be one step, and then it'd pause another step. Well, the dog and I ran out of the house, and so we
ran faster. You were the dog out of the house.
I think it was a dead heat. But anyhow, it didn't happen very often. It sometimes about once a year, sometimes twice a year, but it always happened out of the bed. You could hear it coming out of the bed, down the steps, but I never stayed long enough to see it. In the winter, I've been out sitting in a car, the dog and I together. This was another dog. We sat in a car one winter night when we froze to death with nothing but an Afghan around it till my husband and my kids came home. So this went on over the years. But I got used to it. I mean, I wasn't really scared of it, but I wasn't happy with it. But I thought, well, this house is big enough for both of us. So then I wrote an article about it. It was in the Time-Star on the Sunday edition, and we had a friend. It's all right to mention names, I'm quite sure.
We won't tell anyone.
Yeah, okay. Just amongst us and everybody else in the county.
Nobody will be listening or looking. But this gentleman was Jim Griffith, and he was head of the Veterans Association in Clermont County. And when he read the article, he called me, or his wife rather called me, and she said, well, I have a story to tell you. She said, Jim didn't want me to tell it ever, but now since you wrote about this ghost, I want to tell you the story. She said, you had a party about 5 years ago, and at the time, Jim decided he needed to go to the bathroom, so he went upstairs. He went by one room. There was an old lady and an old man sitting in this room. The old lady was sitting in a rocking chair, and she was knitting. The old man was sitting in another chair reading the newspaper. They had on old-fashioned clothes, and the man in particular, he remembered his costume or his clothes. He had a shirt on with stripes and a celluloid collar and suspenders and old-fashioned house slippers. And he said as he went by, they waved at him. And he went on to the bathroom, came back, and they waved at him again. And he knew that neither Herb nor I, our parents, were around anywhere. So he didn't want anybody to know that because he was afraid they'd think he was crazy. But now,
or that he was into the punch or something.
Yeah, a little bit too much. So anyhow, that happened, and it was. And another time, my mother didn't believe me. Nobody believed me. And one year at Christmas, Mother came to visit me, and we were down in the kitchen, and there. That's 16 steps from upstairs. I counted those.
And all the steps down.
Well, I guess if you hear ghosts, at some point you're going to be able to identify when are they going to be done.
Yeah. The times. But I want to be out of there before they made that 16th step. So my mother said, somebody's upstairs, and I said, Mother, her, my husband, and my 2 children. At that point, we had 2 children. I said, they're at church. It's Christmas Eve, and we were getting dinner ready the next day. And she says, well, there's somebody in this house. Let's get out of here. So I said, Mother, it's a ghost. And she said, oh, no, it's not. There's somebody upstairs. I hear it. So we ran out the side door here, or she's the one that ran out. We ran across, and I followed her, and so did the dog. And
just to help her. You weren't getting out, yeah.
And we ran across the street, and Mrs. Murphy lived across the street, and we locked the door behind us, or she did, and Mrs. Murphy called the police for us. So the policeman came with a drawn gun, and he went through the whole house.
Nobody there.
was there.
And when he came downstairs, he said, I saw nothing out of place except there's one bed up there. It looked like somebody had been lying on it because there's an indenture on the bed. And so he said, that's the only thing I saw. And I said, see, Mother, I told you. Well, we had a friend who came over right after that, Dr. Elston, and he said, I don't know why you're carrying on, so you know who it was upstairs. It was Santa Claus.
Because everybody knew it was
Santa
Santa
Claus. Santa Claus.
Well, Mrs.
gosh.
Hoberg, this has been great. We really appreciate you talking with us today, and it sounds like you've had quite a lot of experiences with this.
Well, the story goes on beyond what I think could possibly happen. Another couple had the house blessed and who moved in and all this sort of stuff. And a girl whose parents lived here saw the man upstairs at the window, and her mother was in a wheelchair.
Wow.
They let her come home. And then another family moved in, and they had the same problem.
This has been going on for literally decades.
Maybe the Ellises have solved it.
Well, I think they tried to get rid of him with a vacuum cleaner, from what I understand.
The wet dry vac and the coffee. Serve the ghost coffee. That seemed to do it.
The other family said blood was running down the walls. The kids wouldn't sleep upstairs, and there was
That would do it for me.
That would do it for me,
That would pretty
too.
much do it.
I'm glad he didn't get violent while I was there.
Well, thank you
Mrs.
so much.
Hoberg. It
It's
was
such a pleasure
having
to
you
meet
on
you.
there.
And on behalf of Rick, too, and his wonderful book, Uneasy Spirits, it's been really nice to interview you in person. Thanks for taking time out of your evening.
Thanks for having me. I enjoyed it, but I wouldn't want to go through it again.
Well, thanks, everyone, and we'll be right back.
I think
Gregg and I want to thank you all for watching this year's Haunted Halloween special on Southwest Ohio Magazine. And I'd like to introduce you to our other guests who played our ghosts tonight. We've got Jared Shouse, Jennifer Hulgan, Ron Shouse, Kay Shields, and Danny Woodley. And these people are with the Grassy Run Historical Arts Committee, and they've been on our show before, and we've certainly had a good time, Ron.
You're right, Ron. Thank you very much for being on there. And real quickly, kind of mention to the folks out there in our audience about Grassy Run and the upcoming event.
Absolutely. Coming up this April 16th, 17th, 18th.
Of 99.
Of 99. We've moved our event to Williamsburg, Ohio. We're back in Clermont County up in Harmony Hillside on top of 3rd Street in Williamsburg. And hopefully the public will hear more about us coming up here as the year gets older and the new year starts.
Well,
I tell you what, you've made an excellent ghost tonight. So we want to thank you for
I've
playing
heard that
those
before.
parts.
I've heard that before.
And I want to tell everyone, too, I know a lot of our viewers are aware that I did go to the Heritage Rendezvous this year, had a fabulous time, so mark it on your calendar. And, of course, Greg and I want to thank again Rick Crawford, who always makes our shows so special and who contributes so much to the history of Clermont County.
Thank you very much. I always enjoy this Halloween stuff. This is my favorite time of the year.
And we also want to thank Danny for coming back here. Danny was helping us out last year when I think we were at Lucy Run.
The pumpkin holder.
He was the pumpkin holder
He
last
was
year at
with us
Lucy Run.
The first year out at Smyrna.
Right. We want to mention, too, real quick, I think Mike can get a shot of this. The name of the book is Uneasy Spirits, 13 Ghost Stories from Clermont County. And this is Rick Crawford's book about the hauntings of Clermont County. And, Rick, your phone number where we can get this at is?
753-4642.
All right, 753-4642. Give Rick a call and see if you can get one of these great books. It's really well. Okay, well, thank you very much for watching, everyone. This wraps up our Halloween edition of Southwest Ohio Magazine. So long, everyone.
Bye-bye.